Oh, hey everyone. Just going to do a few tutorials on unwrapping, a bit more advanced stuff. So we did the crate, the last tutorial, and it was pretty good. It was kind of a simple shape. So I'm going to go over a few different objects here that may or may not give you some troubles while you're unwrapping your stuff. So I want to throw in some kind of a little bit of a video just to kind of handle some interesting situations you might face. Number one is a cylinder. Let's take a look at our cylinder here. This is kind of a low poly with a bunch of chamfers in there. So let's take a look. All right, so I'm going to throw an unwrap modifier on there. I'm going to hit open. And let's take a look at what we got here. So by default, Unity gave us this cylinder unwrap, which, let's see how it looks. Check our pattern. So it did a pretty nice job on this part here. It's still a little stretched, but then you see this part's all gray, and if I click on one of these faces, it's basically non-existent in here. And same with that one. And the top here we see is just stretched to hell, right? We got a cylinder there, but then all these guys are just like a flat line. Aside from seeing these like stripes in here, anytime you select a face and it's just basically a point like this, it usually means it's stretched to hell. Well, always means. So let's take a look. Again, we have some good parts. We have some really bad parts. We can maybe try and salvage what Unity kind of gave us with our basic cylinder unwrap, but I don't really want to do that. I don't really know, if all this stuff is going to look great and all that, so I'm just going to do the same thing I did before. So mapping, flat map is going to do that. It's going to give me some nice shapes, some silly shapes and all that. So let's start with the easy part here. Let's start with this center column. Let's just select any piece that you wish. Just take that one there. Just scooch this over a little. So we have that guy right there. And let's just rotate him so it's facing the right way. If you ever want to check what direction you rotate it, just select some verts. So just go and vert select those ones. Oh, those are the top. Those are the bottom. We have the right way around. If I rotated it this way and I selected those, it selected the bottom, so obviously this thing's upside down. All right, so we have that. Let's just do what we were doing before. I'm going to select this edge. I'm going to go to Tools, Stitch Selected. I'm going to do a bias of 0. And I'm going to just use my shortcut to do the rest. Shortcut spacebar, shortcut spacebar, shortcut spacebar. Oh, too far. Undo. There we go, so we have that. Now we're missing a few little edges here, so let's take a look at where these guys are. I have this like gentle chamfer going up this way. And if I try and stitch that selected, it might give me kind of like a weird face over here because it kind of unwrapped these in like a silly kind of way. So I could do two things. I could find these guys first and then select half of their faces and hit the Tools, Detach Edge Verts, and then just kind of separate them out so I know they're on their own. If I don't feel like doing that, once we get over here, let's find one that it brought over. So I'm going to just stitch all these guys all over here. So this one here brought over both of those. Now that it's here, I could select him now and detach him, just so you know which ones you're detaching. You don't have to go look for them. You kind of wait while they come to you. There we go. And now we got to weld these little guys in there. So I'm going to do those at a bias of 0.5. And just weld all of these things here. Anything you find that's weird. That one's kind of well, it's kind of out there, so I might just do a 0 on that. Same with any of those ones you feel are really off, and doing an average would kind of screw you up. So there we go. Those guys are all done. And we could double click this top line here, get all the edges, and select Align Horizontally to Pivot. This will flatten them out. If you really want it to be perfectionist, you can do that going up and down as well, but we'll do that in a second after we take care of the bottom bit there. Let's take a look what's happening at the bottom. Same kind of idea. We have a gentle curve, and it's just decided certain faces belong somewhere else. So I am going to do the exact same thing. Oops, not that one. D for detach. Ooh, that one's fun. That one brought over a whole circle. Let's just leave that one for a little bit. Alright, so we'll deal with those in right now here. So we'll have to go over here, find the circle. So it's most likely this guy. You'll see there's a few little edges that are just kind of attached there, so I can detach these guys here. Alright, we can go back to over here and weld them back down there. Stitch selected, fix up all these things, right, at a 0.5. There we go. There we go. There we go. These don't have to be overly perfect right now, just because I'm going to be very picky. I'm going to flatten these guys down, and then I'm going to flatten these ones out here. So I'm going to select all those verts, flatten them, and just with my edge select, I'm going to double click and do that. So I'm going to do that for all of these. And then we have to make some choices here. So our next part of the cylinder is this part down here. So that's this round little guy that it gave us. So we can make two choices. We can leave them as is, really depending on what kind of detail you have modeled out here in your high poly. If it's very flat and not overly interesting, we can weld them onto the bottom part here and get lots of stretching. But if we feel that we do have quite a lot of shapes that are kind of intricate and we want to reduce the amount of stretching, we can leave it as a circle. So kind of up to you, depending on you know, what you feel is necessary and all that. So I'm probably gonna leave mine as a cylinder, just for good measure. And I'm gonna take this guy here and do the exact same thing I did for the center. And this middle part here, see, it did that. It flattened out these guys. You see there, you're gonna run into this situation sometimes where it just kind of does like chunks at a time. Well, because this guy's mainly flat, I want to do basically this whole top cap as one mesh. So the best way to do that is to use a tool in here called projection. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select this center piece here, and over under modify selection there's a little plus and a little minus. It's called grow and shrink. If I hit grow, it's just going to keep selecting the next polygon up from each of these polys, and if I do minus, it'll do the same thing. So it's a nice way of kind of expanding your selection without having to actually find all these things in here, because it'd be a pain in the butt having to go select all of them in there. So I'm going to select all of the bits that I want. I'm going to take this whole cap here, and I might even do one more. Let me see, how far does this go? That might be a little too much. Yeah, I'll just go to there. So what I want to do here is I'm going to just take basically I want to project an unwrap based on a specific angle. So whether it's, you know, looking at the top or the front. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use this projection section here. So if I use my planer right here, it's going to stay selected. It's going to be in blue. And if you see here, it's going to basically, it just took a screenshot or whatever, like a projection map, just right off the top, just directly on the top wise. And I can select which one. So I can do X, you'll see here. You see this little yellow square that'll show up. That'll show you the direction it's mapping to. This is basically just a regular UV modifier that's found in the modifier list. It does the same thing, but just you could do it on specific faces. It's really handy for situations like this where we just want you know, specific sections there. So you click through these, it'll show you which ones you got. There's also best align, and what it'll do is it'll take all of the angles of your faces and try and find the best average between the bunch of them. So if I did, let's say, this one and this one, and I tried to do a best align, you see here that yellow box is kind of an average between this angle and that angle. It's trying its best anyway, so I'm going to undo that because I did not actually want to do that. And then here we have view align. So if I want to direct it, you know, directly unwrap it to just where I'm facing, I can click on that guy there, and it'll align the square right to my camera. There you see, you have it there. Right now, it's not very useful. Looks really funky, not a good unwrap. But I've used this in the past on meshes that are on strange angles and things like that. It could be quite handy on. So let's just do a Z projection on here. And you have to click the planar map button again to get out of that before you can start moving this around. We do have other functions in here. You do have a cylinder unwrap, which will try and do a cylindrical unwrap for you. Might be handy for some of these guys down here. You have a sphere unwrap, which is madness, and a box unwrap, which will kind of just do each side. I typically don't use any of these. I use cylinder once in a while, but that's pretty much it. You can do fit and center and all that, and you can do a reset as well if you've just been playing around with things. So we're going to do just a Z projection right now, and it's pretty good, right? Like, it looks nice and clean. Aside from the fact, if we take a look at this guy right from the top view angle or viewport, all of our squares, all these little checker boxes, are, you know, more or less, well, they'll be perfect squares if I actually look at it from the top here. You'll see that they're perfect squares because that's exactly what it's done. It's taken that and just projected that right down. The problem with projection mapping is anything that's on an angle, it will stretch. All right, you're going to get a bit of stretching, and I mean, that's to be expected to some degree, but we can adjust that, and I will show you how in a second. You'll see here too. It's going to kind of droop down a little bit. Now, because we're doing this flat projection map, you're going to get a bit of stretching no matter what you do, but there's definitely certain things we can do to at least prevent that, or at least give it a little bit more resolution than it has right now. One of the ways to do that is to go to our edge select, and I'm going to select these two. Oops, I'm going to take off my element select. I'm going to select those two edges, and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit loop, and it's going to select those two outer edges. Now, because these edges are in two different places here on the unwrap modifier, it has selected a bunch over here too. So I need to just deselect these by holding Alt and clicking and dragging. And this will just give me a ring select just on this one here. What this will allow me to do is just, it'll allow me just to scale the edges that we have there. So if I go to my scale tool up here, and I hover over this guy, you'll see here it'll start scaling uniformly just from that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scale this up a little bit. Now what that's going to do is it's not going to get rid of a lot of the warping, because that, you know, is just going to happen. But by stretching it, I'm going to make these squares more or less equal size to these guys, giving it at least the same resolution as that. Before here, you'll see they're stretched, so it's not getting as many pixels for the light map as we would like. So we're going to scale that up a little bit and get that done. And we're going to do the opposite here. Well, we could scale this down, but we don't want to lose any res. So I'm going to do the same thing, but let me see. So sometimes you gotta figure out which face is which. Okay, so that's that face. You see how stubby they are and how long this one is? It kind of shows you what's going on there. So I'm going to select all those guys. I'm going to hit the loop again, and I'm going to hover over that until my little scale tool turns to the triangle. And then I'm going to scale. I forgot to do this. Also selected those outer edges again. Back to scale, and just going to give it a little bit of res. There you go. So again, you still see we're getting some stretching. You know, I might want to scale these guys up too. So just so these guys are all equal size, maybe take this guy, scale him down a little bit. There we go. That's looking better. Again, still getting a wee bit of stretching, but there's not much you can do against that. You can just do your best to equal out the res, and that'll be a pretty good little unwrap for that. So again, that's just a quick little unwrap tutorial on cylinders, and especially caps, because we're going to be doing lots of caps with, especially with sci-fi stuff. So that'll be that. Our next little video, we're going to take on this little box here and kind of talk about some of the issues you might face with something like this. Thank you.